Hey, what is going on, guys? RvzStealth here, and in today's video we're going to be taking a look at the 10 most annoying champions in the game that I wish were deleted. Now, of course, this video is going to be very opinion based. I don't expect for you to agree with it at all, but I'm going to do my best to give you a couple good reasons for each champion as to why I think they're really annoying. And if you don't agree with my list, let me know down in the comments below a couple champions that you would replace them with. Let me know what your list would be like. What champions do you think are extremely annoying and should be deleted from the game? But with that being said, guys, let's jump right into number 10. So starting things off here at the number 10 spot is going to be the Taric Master Yi combo. Now, I know this isn't like one specific champion here, and this is the only combo I'm going to have in this video, but I just feel like I have to include this because this is just the most annoying thing in the game right now if you go up against it. It's a free win past 20 minutes into the game. You literally have zero counterplay against it in solo queue because there's very minimal coordination in solo queue. Like if you can play coordinated, if you can find picks against the comp, catch them out before the Taric ultimate comes down, then yes, you can beat it. But in solo queue, a lot of the time that's just not gonna happen. If these two champions get to like 2 or 3 items each, if it reaches like 25-30 minutes into the game, like the game is just gonna be over and there's really nothing you can do against it. The only possible way you can beat the Taric Master Yi is if you beat them in the early game, so you need to get super far ahead in the early game. I've only won one time against the combo, and that's how we won. Every single lane won. We were snowballing really hard and we played well to end the game like before 20 minutes. That's literally the only way I've won. Every single game that's gone past 20 or 25 minutes, it's been a loss every single time. So honestly, it looks like in this next patch here, it could be getting weaker. It should be getting weaker with the nerfs they are giving to funnel, but just get this garbage out of the game. I do not want to see this in my games anymore. So at the number 9 spot here, one of the newest AD carries in the game is going to be Aphelios. Now, I respect Riot for trying like a different approach with a champion, very unique champion here in Aphelios that we've never seen before, with only really having 2 abilities. And I don't think he's the most annoying champion in the game, which is why I have him at the number 9 spot and not higher up on the list. Obviously, he does have his counterplay there. Like, he doesn't have a gap closer in his kit, no mobility, very easy to jump on a team fight and burst out. But there's a couple different things that I just find really annoying to play against when up against this champion. His range is absolutely disgusting. If you get pegged from like super long range with Aphelios and you end up getting like rooted from 2 screens away, or you end up getting like chunked out from 2 screens away, that just feels really bad to play against. This is an AD carry champion who has the ability to one-shot multiple squishy targets on the enemy team from a pretty decent range as well once you do get a couple items, and I just don't really feel like that should be something an AD carry is able to do. He also does have like better 1v1 potential with his Severum, with his Chakram than like most other assassins do, or most other like 1v1 bruiser champions in the game, and I just feel like he's going to be a problem champion. Like right now in solo queue, he's sitting at a 47% win rate, but he's still considered like a strong champion. He's still considered OP, and he's even like getting more nerfs here. So I just feel like, even though I do respect the unique path they've gone with this champion in Aphelios, I just feel like he is going to be a more problematic champion down the line. So coming in at the number 8 spot is going to be Tahm Kench, and he's on here for pretty much one reason and because of one ability, being his W. If you're playing an assassin, if you're playing a pick champion, a dive champion, and it reaches mid to late game and there's a Tahm Kench in the game, you just feel so useless as a champion. If you're playing something, I don't know, like Fizz, you get a nice ultimate off on the enemy AD carry, you thread the needle in a fight, get that good ultimate off, and the Tahm Kench just comes in, presses W, and you're just pretty much completely useless after that. His W just counters so many different champions in the game, and if it's a good Tahm Kench, if the Tahm knows what he's doing, then if you're playing that champion that needs to get on top of the enemy AD carry to be useful, then you're pretty much useless for the entire game. And it's kind of the opposite for when you have a Tahm Kench on your team. It feels like he's always using his W at the wrong times. It feels like he's eating his teammates at the incorrect times in every fight, or he's just not using his W at all. So that's my reasoning as to why I have Tahm Kench on my top 10. I feel like a lot of other people probably wouldn't have him on their top 10, but I have him on mine. So at the number 7 spot here is going to be our first mid laner, and it's Castin. So for how strong this champion's late game is, for how much of a free win it is once this champion hits level 16, I feel like his early laning is not as punishable as it should be. His matchups in the mid lane right now aren't even all that bad, and he has the ability to even win lane in a lot of matchups. So it just feels really bad to play against Castin if you're playing a mid lane pick who doesn't even win lane against him, and then you reach the mid to late game, Castin reaches level 16, and you're still just absolutely getting destroyed by this champion. So pretty much every game you're up against Castin, you're up against that timer. If you do not win the game before he hits level 16, you're almost guaranteed to lose because he's got pretty much a 2-second point and click one shot in his kit. So number 6 on the list, another mid laner, it's Talon, and Talon's on here because this champion does not even have to lane. This champion, if he can get to Moby Boots, if he can reach his Tiamat, all he does is perma shove waves and he just roams. He roams. He doesn't have to interact with the enemy mid laner at all, and he can just pick up free kills around the map. No matter how many missing pings you throw down, if you're going up against Talon, if he's got Mobies, if he's got his E, he's gonna jump over walls. He's gonna be bot lane in like 3 seconds. Your bot lane is just gonna die every single time, and you just lose games against Talon because I guess he outclassed you. He was able to roam better than you down bot lane, and that just feels really bad to play against, because even if you're winning lane against Talon, even if you're up CS, even if you solo killed him a couple times in lane, if he just reaches Moby Boots or if he just reaches Tiamat, then it's going to be a lot harder for you to win that game, and he can just win games by getting his bot lane or his top lane ahead. Number 5 spot on the list is going to be Fizz, and he's on here for a few different reasons. So number 1 is that if you're playing a mage into Fizz, it just really feels like there's very little counterplay until you do end up getting a stopwatch. Pre-stopwatch though, especially at level 6 as Fizz, you have to play so conservative. Like against a lot of other assassins, you can still play up in lane a little bit, you can still like look to pressure, poke them out a little bit in lane, but against Fizz, if he has that level 6, if he's got his ultimate up, you have to play so far back in lane. If he ends up hitting an ult onto you, you're gonna have to burn flash, you're gonna have to burn barrier, and just because of how slippery this champion is, it's so difficult even if you are playing a mage, like to hit a skill shot against him. He's got the invulnerability in his kit, he's got the Q which he can use to dodge out on skill shots as well. So once you reach later on into the game, and once Fizz gets a Zhonya himself, it's so difficult to like even target him in a team fight. If he ends up ulting you, he uses his E, he's gonna one-shot you while pretty much being invulnerable, and that just feels really bad to play against. So at the number 4 spot, another support pick here, and it's going to be Yumi. So I realized, like the Aphelios earlier on in the video, Riot needs to try to innovate. They need to try to create these unique champions and do things that they've never done before. But personally, I just do not really like the concept of Yumi. Having a perma invulnerable champion who can make anyone in the game basically into a raid boss really isn't something that I enjoy playing against or even with. It just feels really bad if you're playing against a Yumi and there's like a fed bruiser or a fed fighter on the enemy team, say something like a Jax, an Olaf is one of the worst right now, a Master Yi, like a Garen, any of these champions that can just run at you and mull down your entire team. If they've got a Yumi on top of them, like you're just never going to kill that Master Yi. He's just gonna dive your backline, kill everybody on your team, get that attack speed boost from Yumi, get the massive heals from Yumi, and he's just gonna stay alive forever. It also feels like when you have Yumi on your team, she just doesn't really do anything. She's just like another champion sitting AFK on your teammate. So it's kind of like Tahm Kench in a way. Like when you got the Tahm Kench on the enemy team, extremely annoying, but when you got the Yumi or the Tahm Kench on your team, feels like they do absolutely nothing. So at my number 3 spot, a very similar champion to Talon in Kiana, and she's a little bit higher up on my list because in my opinion, she just has a lot less counterplay than a Talon. At least with Talon, like if he's coming in to one-shot you, you can flash away. Like he doesn't have any sort of chain CC he can use to like lock you down and one-shot you. You can at least flash away. You can at least like try to escape. But with Kiana, if she gets in range, if she locks onto you, and especially if you're up against a wall, you're just straight up dead. Like there's nothing you can do against it unless you can like flash before she gets in range of you, or you can like Zhonya's, like you could be fine in that situation. But if she gets in range of you and she's extremely fed, you're just gonna die right away and there's nothing you can do against it. And then as well, like the Talon, the Moby Boot rush there, and the Tiamat just being able to perma shove waves in roam. Like you'll see so many Kiana players just perma roam bot, lose like 2 or 3 waves mid, but because they got their bot lane a double kill, I guess they're the better mid. I guess they end up winning the game. You can have a Kiana player have 30 CS at 10 minutes into the game. The enemy mid has like 80 CS, CSing really well, laning really well, but because that Kiana bought Moby Boots, because she roamed bot a couple times, she gets to win the game. So personally, I just don't like that playstyle. I don't think it's a very healthy playstyle, and I don't really think it should be in the game. So closing in on that number 1 spot now, the runner-up here is going to be Zoe. Now, if there's one champion on this list that most people would agree with me on, it would probably be Zoe. I feel like most players find this champion extremely annoying to play against. Getting bubbled from like 2 screens away and just being one-shot is probably the most uninteractive thing in the game, and it just feels so bad to play against. So that's one of the reasons as to why I have her on this list. Also, her W is just such an uninteractive ability. Like, it's such an RNG ability, and I just don't really like the fact that she can just win lanes or win games off of that RNG, picking up something like a redemption, picking up like an ignite or something in the laning phase, and just all-inning you with your W without even having to land a single skill shot. You'll see Zoe players, I'm sure you've seen multiple replays of Zoe players just one-shotting or all-inning the enemy mid laner, and she didn't even hit her E, she didn't even hit her Q. So I really don't like that aspect of her kit, and those are the main reasons as to why I have her on this list. And then lastly here, guys, to round out the video, number 1 spot for the most annoying champion in the game goes to Akali. So Akali's on this list for a lot of different reasons. I really don't like her Q. Her Q, the fact that it's a very short cooldown ability, poke ability, it just makes her laning phase extremely annoying to play against, especially if you're playing a melee champion up against Akali. It just feels like you really can't do anything. And then if you're level 3, if you jump on Akali, you try to trade with her, she just goes into her shroud, and it makes it so that she just constantly keeps poking you in the laning phase, chunks you out, and when you actually try to trade with her, you really can't, because she just goes into that shroud, becomes like invulnerable, you can't even see her, you can't trade with her at all. So it just feels extremely bad to play against this champion. The fact I still have Akali at my number 1 spot on the list after all the countless nerfs that she's received, and even though she's sitting at like a 43 or 44% win rate right now in solo queue, it just goes to show how poor the champion was designed. And if you think back to like her release, it was so much worse than it was now. Like being able to dive the enemy under tower when in your W and not take like a single tower shot, you were basically like invulnerable to towers, and you could just sit under the enemy's tower and do whatever you want. It just goes to show like how imbalanced this champion was, and I don't even know how that hit live servers in the first place, but I guess after all, Riot does have 200 years of experience. So that's gonna be all, guys. That's gonna round it out. That's, in my opinion, the 10 most annoying champions in the game that I wish were deleted. Now, of course, like I said earlier on in the video, don't have to agree with my list at all. If you don't agree, let me know down in the comments below which champions you would add into your list, which champions you would swap out. But if you enjoyed the video, be sure to drop a like and subscribe if you have yet to already. So thanks for watching, guys. Have an awesome day, and I'll see you in my next video.